Attention, everyone. The unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake. Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go.
They have stories to tell.
And you might even want to hear a few of them.
This is Soundwaves TMI.
And here we are with Soundwaves TMI. As you may have guessed, I'm Stephen Kirk. I'm here with Chasta and Dennis Willis. We're all here. Chasta will be with us momentarily. She's trying to gather and compose herself after this last conversation.
Yeah, no kidding. And yet again, I come to the table, not hungover, but just exhausted because I was out really late last night at a killer show, Retro Junkie, Walnut Creek, watching the cover-ups. So I'm on like 5 hours of sleep. So it's going to be real good
Tell
time.
us about the cover-ups, though, because not everybody may not.
Okay, so I feel like all of a sudden I'm channeling my baby Huey because it's Billy Joe Armstrong's cover band, which I just think is super rad. He's had this cover band for quite some time, and he saw on Instagram Retro Junkie and was like, dude, this looks like a cool place, and all these tribute bands and cover bands, I want to play there. Picks up the phone and calls Retro Junkie. He's like, can I play?
Wow.
Talking about a mega rock star.
Yeah, that doesn't happen a lot.
That doesn't happen.
That's so cool.
The cover-ups play a couple times a year, I would say, and they sell out. I mean, obviously. And so this was the spot he wanted to play. So last week he called up, and they let us know at the Bone, announce it. We announced it in 10 seconds. It sold out. I mean, like instantaneously. Wow. So last night we went, and we have a great relationship with Retro Junkie. This is a funny story. We have a great relationship with them, and so they had us in the VIP. They like cordoned off a little VIP section because Billy Joe's family was there, and the other band members, they had family and friends and stuff. So we're chilling. It's me, Baby Huey. Baby Huey, from 107.7 The Bone, if you're not aware, you have to know, is the number one Green Day fan of all time. I mean, he has made his way into their lives. They all know him. He knows their siblings and nephews, and I mean,
they've got the restraining orders.
Totally, yeah. He's practically goes to their family reunions. So he's there in all of his glory. Nikki Black is there, and one of our sales guys from the Bone, Paul, is there. And we're all standing there, and it's getting kind of late for me. It's like almost 10 o'clock, and I'm like, God, I'm going to have to cut out early. And I swear to God, I'm literally about to turn around and grab my purse. And the manager of Retro Junkie, her name is Trisha. She's adorable. She's my girl crush. She grabs me by the arm, and she goes, nobody puts baby in a corner. She freaking walks me to the front on the stage. I'm 2 feet from Billy Joe. He's
Nice.
looking at me like, who's this bitch? But she moved people out of the way to put me right in front. First of all, I love Green Day, but I did not deserve to be there. That should have been Baby Huey. He should have been up Billy Joe's ass and around the corner, not me. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know, when she grabbed my hand, I thought we were going to get a drink or something. I couldn't have imagined what she was going to do. And I just felt daggers in the back of my head because I know Baby Huey wanted to slit my throat.
Right.
Because what?
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, but if they put Baby Huey up there, then nobody else would have been able to see the show.
I know, and that's true. So anyways, I took one for the team, and I stood basically next to Billy Joe while he rocked out Retro Junkie. And I had to stay because when that happens, you can't then leave early.
Sure.
Right? You're like, oh no, I'm in it now.
Yeah.
So there I was, and I enjoyed the rest of the show. And I got
Nice.
really cool pictures of him very close up.
Nice.
So
nice.
you have
That's
been
outstanding.
warned. And
Was it awkward at work today when you went in and Baby Huey was...
Huey's such a champ. Okay. I let him know. I was like, just so you know, I had no idea where we were going.
Right.
Had I known, I would have grabbed you. We would have been like a little, Charlie train headed to the front. But I didn't know that until I ended up underneath Billy Joe's nose. It was so awkward. We
Nice.
locked eyes, and I know he was just like, what the hell is happening? For fuck's sake. Anyway, so you've been warned. I can't be held for anything I say on this podcast today.
I think we should just compartmentalize that and play that at the beginning of every podcast because that's just Chasta.
That's just me in a sentence. So there you go.
Nice.
How are you guys this week?
I have a head cold,
Yeah,
actually.
I know. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Yeah, no worries. At least I could do.
We'll be sick in 3, 2.
I feel fine. That's the most frustrating part of it. It's not like I got walloped and I was like, my whole body. No, I feel fine. It's just in my, brain in my nose, and I would just want nothing more than a firecracker to blow my nose off my face.
Oh, that sucks.
But otherwise, I'm great.
Yeah, and I'm okay. Like Rodney, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape. No, what's going to happen in a couple of days when I go home?
Yeah.
I'm going to get sick.
Yeah, me
from these
too.
fuckers.
Yep.
And my problem is when I fly on a plane and the pressure changes when you're going in for a landing. I get this sinus thing where my face literally feels like my head's going to explode.
I remember you did that last time.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I have a feeling it's going to happen again. And so he's, Sarah's been sick and I'm getting over it and all that sort of stuff. And I figure, well, I can probably dodge that bullet this time.
Right.
I take like antihistamines when I get on the plane just to make sure I got the little nasal thing that I can stick up.
Yeah, I love that thing.
Just to,
Yeah.
And so everything, we're over it and we're getting over it, all that sort of stuff. And then find out today, Taylor's holed up in his room because now he's
Taylor's
sick.
Oh, for God.
Well, I didn't count on that plot twist, though, because as of yesterday, I'm fine.
So this could be my final podcast because my head may actually do the whole exploding off of my shoulders thing.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at
like that scene in Scanners when
Other than that, I'm fucking great.
Good time. So we're all in really good shape right now.
Well, we're all going to go out tomorrow night. We're going to drink a lot.
Yeah, we
and
are.
That'll be my last meal. That's good.
Your last supper. Aw, I really
But it'll
hope
be
not.
totally worth it.
It will.
It better be. Fucking better be.
All right, so we were like, what are we going to talk about? But everything on our mind this week has to do with music.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we'll start with Ozzy.
Oh, God. Do we have to?
I know.
So the day that was announced a couple days ago, that was the very first thing. When I woke up at 4 a.m. and opened my phone, that was the very first thing.
Well, for context, he made an announcement that his touring days are over.
Right.
For various medical reasons.
There are various.
Yeah.
And so he did say that he's canceling the European tour and his touring days are over. He's retiring from the road.
Right.
But he would still like to play one-off shows, maybe a festival show. I think he should do a Vegas residency and just pop out on stage every 3 or 4 nights when he's feeling good. I'd be there for that. So you can tell, here's the truth. I mean, Ozzy's voice has never been affected by everything that he's dealt with. Yeah. Nothing. I mean, he's really kept that in perfect shape. Parkinson's hasn't done anything to it yet, any of his other health issues. But it's the travel. I mean, tour life is hard, even in the lap of luxury, even on private. You're going from time zone to time zone. You're on stage every night. The energy you have to have, it's a lot.
Sure.
So I get it, but for me, I mean, he's on another level. He's a god. I mean, I walked down the aisle to Black Sabbath. Like Ozzy, I can't imagine a world without Ozzy in it. So I'm getting really sad and nervous, and I feel like we should wrap him in bubble wrap.
Well, he's not going anywhere. He
better not.
Patient Number 9,
Right.
best rock
Yeah.
album. He
can still record.
He can still record.
I mean,
he can still do it.
2 kick-ass albums in the last 2 years.
Incredible albums.
Yeah.
And I feel like they have not gotten the love. I've talked about them on the air. We've played a couple of the songs off the air whenever they've been released, but they haven't gotten the love that they deserve. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Andrew Watts produced, fantastic producer. So many people helped out on that. So I know we'll get more from him. It makes me sad.
Do you think Ozzy's edge is kind of dulled a little bit with general perception because of the reality show stuff and everything where he...
I think people are ageist. I think that's what it is. And when you're walking into and out of a gym and you can barely stand up and you're shaking like that, he has obviously Parkinson's, for those who don't know. I think people can be kind of dicks about it, And, I mean, I'm just being real. I think they can start to write you off, even though he is the frickin' Prince of Darkness. So I feel like that's part of it. I don't know. I don't have a problem with Sharon personally, but I do know that a lot of people feel like she's the Kris Jenner of rock and roll. She was Kris Jenner before Kris Jenner came along.
Right.
So I don't think that helps.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I just saw they have some specialty shirts coming out now about something post-retirement. I don't know. That's gross. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think to answer your question, I think there are a couple of things that kind of maybe dull that. I think if it were up to Ozzy, he'd just be in his cave. He'd come out and rock us, and then he'd go back in his cave.
Oh, that's what I need.
Right?
Yeah. Ozzy, come on, bud.
I know, exactly. His bat cave, I should say.
Well, on the topic of ageism, this past week, I was very excited to see Bruce Springsteen hit the road. He kicked off his tour. I guess they'd rented a stadium. I can't tell you where it is. Maybe it was in Jersey, but I know that they had
Is
an
it
outdoor...
MetLife Stadium? Like, where the...
Maybe, but
okay.
They had this outdoor stadium that they rehearsed, like, the whole show and everything for, like, I don't know, a week. So you could drive by at any point and just hear him playing.
Yeah.
And they kicked it off in Tampa. And I want to give a shout out. When you listen to the show, you hear Kelly Ogden. Kelly is not only on Little Steven's Underground Garage, she's also with Dolly Rot.
Yeah.
And she and Lewis, who is also her husband and a Dolly Rot. Membership has its privileges because Little Steven is in that band and runs that channel. And you saw the picture of where they were sitting.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Good for them.
I mean, good for them.
How jealous were you? Were you gritting your teeth?
I was texting
Bless their
her.
hearts, right?
Exactly.
We were actually
used appropriately.
we were texting on a break, and she said she had to take a quick pee break, and she's already cried 4 times.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, yeah, I would too.
Like, wish I were there sitting beside you.
I'm telling you, but
golden seats.
YouTube is your friend. I went and I watched a good amount of it on YouTube.
That's
with just
great.
people with phones and stuff like that.
That's
But you know what? This is kind of interesting because there was a big kerfuffle, and he caught a lot of shit for the prices. And this is like a Live Nation thing, or it's a ticket price thing, whatever thing. But he actually came out and was like, you know what? We just decided this time to go out market rate, market value, and we're going to charge what a lot of our contemporaries charge. And I'm like, dude, it's 73. He's got 16 people on stage. He's got a big production to pay for. I don't begrudge him
That's
that.
a lot of overhead.
It's a lot of overhead, and it didn't seem to diminish anybody's excitement there, you know. And then in all the Springsteen groups, it's funny because every comment, oh, it's amazing, oh, it was great, it was great, it was great, and one asshole said, I don't know, I think he sounded a little flat during night shift. In which case, then 10 more people piled on and said, you know what, dude? Let's hear you sing when you're 73.
So okay.
And he never stopped moving. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, he's 73, but he was like moving all over the place. And I'm like, you know, you think about Ozzy, and Ozzy would be doing that if he wasn't besieged by Parkinson's and all this stuff.
Right.
So, you know.
I think Ozzy,
counterpoint there, you know?
Yeah, well, I think like Bruce, I mean, he can still move around very well. Mick Jagger, he's the freaking Energizer Bunny.
Sure.
But there's so much more to a live show than just the way you sound. And I will give you grace on a couple notes that you hit, Vince Neil. I'm not talking to you. We need to have a talk. That's a whole nother
not
thing.
you.
That's a whole nother thing, buddy. But there is so much more to a live show. And if Bruce can still put on a great live show, Mick Jagger, obviously, quite frankly, if Ozzy sat in a throne and just sang, I would still feel like that's a great show because I love every song he's ever put out. So I really think people just need to realize we all get older. Happens to the best of us, and then we deal with it how we can. And if we still have a voice and we still want to rock out, I would fucking die on stage. If I were a rock star, you couldn't pull me off with a cane.
Right.
You would see me hit the deck. Seriously. And if that's what they want to do, by all means.
Exactly.
By the way, 73 is still young.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Collins, you know, he went out and just sat on a stool, you know, when he couldn't get around.
Exactly. And still phenomenal.
And still sounds great.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know, part of the problem, people are talking about these high prices and stuff, but a lot of it boils down to the supply chain that's still been affected from. That was me making a point way the fuck over there. But the concerts are affected by the supply chain still years down the road because when you've got a big venue where you've got all these set pieces that come in and stuff like that, and if you're performing in New York tonight and New Jersey tomorrow, well, guess what? They don't pack up that whole thing and take it to the next city over. They've got 2 separate
Multiple sets, right.
And when you talk about the price of gas, which is coming down and all that sort of stuff.
That's actually going back up. It went down and it's coming back up.
But the price of materials, all that stuff that goes into creating it, and right down to the equipment that you need to put speakers and amplifiers and all that sort of stuff. If you have to go to this town and rent it versus buying it and taking it with you, all those prices are up.
And what do you do if the roadies want eggs for breakfast? Dear God.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? How do you afford that?
Yeah.
Let's be
so
real.
obviously the prices are going to go up,
Yeah.
you know, but that's not stopping people from going.
No.
And that's the beauty of it. Because what was the phrase that you used?
I have no idea. Oh, is it on here? Oh,
You know,
I gave you the disclaimer when we started this. Revenge travel. So I follow money podcast, that of which I cannot, Dave Ramsey, his daughter, and she was talking about the idea of revenge travel, which made me laugh because I'm like, who are you revenging against? But it was the idea of during COVID, we couldn't do these things. We couldn't travel. We couldn't go to live shows. We couldn't do all those things. And she said, so now people are just going balls to the wall and they're spending all their money just because they simply can. They can do these things. So revenge travel felt like a dramatic title, but I get what she's saying. And I very much think this applies in live music. Because we music nerds missed out on all those experiences. And I'll tell you, the first year, what was that, summer 2021, I paid some hefty prices to go see shows that I was not going to miss.
Right.
And I don't regret it for a second. Am I still paying for some of it? Maybe. But I don't regret it.
But it is definitely that revenge travel because
Totally.
not only are people, it's not like here we were in 2019 and we went to X number of shows and then we couldn't go to shows and now the number's back to 2019 numbers. No, No, it's up above that. The Live Nation, they're up 20% over where they were in 2019.
Yeah.
So people are just not only going, but they're going big, and they're making up for lost time.
And then when you get the secondary market involved, forget about it. Dear God. I mean, those prices are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars.
Right.
It's terrifying.
So you can sit there and you can complain, and you can say that, oh, Paul McCartney is charging this much, $500 a ticket. And all. Paul McCartney's not charging $500 a ticket.
Right.
The promoters, the venue, the trucking company that takes a set from point A to point B, they've got expenses. They've got things that they've got to pay for. And it's just the cost of living. It's the cost of doing business.
You know who I haven't paid attention to post-COVID for reasons I won't go into? Somebody who did have a real beef with ticket prices and also really pushed to have a $20 flat fee ticket was Kid Rock.
Oh.
I wonder how he would do it. And maybe he is doing it and I'm just not paying attention. I'd have to look that up. But I'm wondering post-COVID, is he fighting that good fight for his people to have a $20 flat rate ticket? Because everything you just said, gas prices, tours, hotels, all of it's so far up. The likelihood of even being able to realistically do that now, it's just
unless he's not
very
taking
limited.
a paycheck and just paying everybody else.
And maybe he's doing that as Saint Kid Rock, Saint Rock.
Well, listening to you guys talk, it makes me think of the level of shows and the difference of shows. Like you were talking about Roger Waters a couple of months ago, and what a production that was, not just visually, but the sound. And it's like, how do you take a Chase Center and make it ready for that show versus the Stones, who, I love the Stones, but they're a bar band on an empty stage with some video monitors. There's like, what are those two? What's the difference between those? It's like comparing the price of what a film costs, $1 million movie versus a $100 million movie.
Yeah.
You still pay the same $10 ticket. But should there be a sliding scale? Do they need to charge more for Roger Waters than they do for, say, a smaller production?
No, I don't think so, because you're making the choice if you want to put on that big a production or not.
Right.
Roger Waters doesn't need to do all of that stuff. If your music is good, you could sit, at a bar and you can sit on a stool and you can play your music and it's awesome. If you want to make that whole big presentation, if that's what you're putting out there, that's on you, brother.
Well, and that's true. And I think it's what you're known for, too. That's part of the problem with Pink Floyd and Roger Waters is they're known for that immersion experience, right? It's like... It's that you feel high even if you're not high experience. The stage is coming down from the top and the sound is all over the place. I really think it's interesting what you said about the Stones being a bar band, because I've never heard anybody else say that, but I've always sort of felt like they can do anything as much as they want or as little as they want, and it doesn't change the experience for me.
Right.
I'm never expecting anything
Well, I wasn't
more.
knocking them at all.
No, I'm not taking it that way.
Yeah.
I that's why I love them, because I don't need anything else from them. They could sit out there, like literally kicking their feet off the side of the stage and play their songs, and I would be like here for it.
When I saw them at Dodger Stadium, they got the big stage and the screens and all that sort of stuff, and then they went out onto the edge of the stage, and then the stage just kind of like went out on wheels out to the pitcher's mound.
Yeah.
And it was just the four guys.
That's
out on
what they
that
did at
little
Levi
stage,
Stadium. It was one of the coolest things
and
I've
it was
seen.
like, there you go.
That's all you need.
That's the Rolling Stones right there.
Yep.
This is all great. This is all eye candy and fun. And it's just, because you can see them on the big screen. But to be able to just see these four guys down there doing their thing, that's rock and roll.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I totally. And I would pay a lot of money just to see them do that. But I would also pay great money to see Roger Waters do what he does. It's just a completely different thing.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about theatrics and big shows, Bone Bash, not that I'm doing a plug here, but just like truly, Bone Bash this year. You talk about theatrics, Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie.
Nice segue, Chasta.
Ministry. I mean, dear God, I don't want to forget about Filter, because quietly, secretly, I'm very excited about Filter being on the bill. But like, oh my God, the amount of the guillotines and the, you know what I mean? All the costumes and the people and the makeup. And I mean, that is a huge show. I don't know what it cost. I could try to find out, but
and I want to talk about Bone Bash because I want to hear you have a great story, and that's obviously the big event for the Bone this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you never know how much it costs to put on a show,
right?
In general, or even in a given city, you hear like, oh, the Motley Crue tour made $500 million. Okay, great.
Yeah,
that's what it made.
Yeah,
but what did it cost?
Right.
Right. And what's interesting is so many things in the TV and movie industry are held up to that weird race. Cost $100 million, but it only made $150, and it needed this to break even. Like, that's become part of our vernacular when talking about entertainment. We do not know that stuff when it comes to touring. Not
That's
that
a super good point.
Not that we need to, not that that has to become part of the narrative or anything, but as I think we are going to Congress and complaining about ticket prices and we're questioning the process in which things happen, it's I'm curious.
God, that's a fantastic point. I never thought about that. Like we do at the end of the year get like the top grossing concerts or tours of the year. And that's always, I love diving into that. I think it's fascinating. But man, you should have the price on there so we understand. Wow, that's really good. You just blew my mind. Never really thought about that.
Well, I mean, that might be us. That might be us sitting around the table because we're interested in production and movies and TV and the nuts and the bolts and everything.
How the sausage is made.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The general public maybe doesn't give a shit. They just want to be entertained.
True.
You know,
Maybe not.
are you not entertained?
Yeah.
You know, they don't care about all that, but we do.
Yeah.
And I think people listening to us care.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, it's interesting because now with all the belt tightening, you know, me complaining every week about these streaming services combining and them, you know, canceling shows left and right. What does it all come down to? Saving money. So like if a show has a big budget and costs $100 million for a season, then that's not uncommon for a big show like Westworld or Star Trek or something like that. And then some suit is like, well, we need to carve $10 billion off the budget. And you start looking at those numbers, what things cost.
Yeah.
You're either going to see budgets come down or you're going to see shows get canceled.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you know, it sucks because that all comes from consolidation. That all comes from one big company buying another big company. But at the end of the day, I mean, I ran a little business. You want to take more in than you spend, you know, more than you put out.
You do have a bottom line. I mean,
you got a bottom line.
Right.
Exactly. And so I just think it's interesting. I just think that, you know, like, have we ever heard of a tour that cost so much that they didn't make it back?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, no, I haven't either.
You know,
I'm sure there have been tours
I'm
like
sure
that.
there have.
But I just don't know them off the top of my head.
Right. So let's talk about Bone Bash. So Bone Bash was a big thing for a lot of years, and Ozzy, bringing it back around, was supposed to play Bone Bash, and on the day Ozzy was supposed to play Bone Bash, Ozzy canceled the show.
Yep.
For medical reasons, and then COVID hit, and you, conquering champion, brought Bone Bash back.
Thank you. I was hoping.
I know it was a team effort, but I'm looking at you.
Oh, yeah. I know it was definitely a team effort, but it was my number one goal.
Right.
I would say whenever I got a program director, I was like, okay, you know, I really thought about what do I want for this station? I tried to look at it with a 10,000 view, drone view. All right, what do we want to hit here? What matters to Boneheads? What matters to us as staff? And it's always Bone Bash. That's our biggest event of the year. And honestly, there's been Bone Bashes. It really didn't even matter who was on stage. Because the bigger part is, I mean, you guys have been many years now. The bigger part is the Bonehead family's there. Sure. Everybody's running around. They're hugging. They're hanging out. They're cheering. That's really what it's all about. Yeah. And half the time, I don't even get to see who's on stage, if I'm being truthful, because we're running around like mad people. But it was one thing that I thought it has to come back post-COVID. So we brought it back last year with Skinnerd, Tesla, and Petty Theft. And I'm really proud of that bill because we really cherry picked that bill and it was magical. So this year we were asking late November. We always work with Live Nation. And we were asking like, hey, think of us for Bone Bash before you start announcing all these shows and tours. Let's talk about what our options are. So this is really how the sausage is made. We're getting into the depths here, but it's interesting. Skinnerd, Tesla, and Petty Theft, that was not a tour. That wasn't an already show thing. We created that. Most of the time, we try to hop on a tour that's already built because that's cheaper, right? I mean,
Sure.
They're already planning to come through the Bay, and then we take it and we expand it and make it our own. And so we were thrown a couple of shows in December and early January, and I won't name names of bands, but they were like, meh. Like, you know, it was like, oh, okay.
We'll discuss after. 'Cause I'm
exactly.
curious.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, okay, that's cool, but that's not a Bone Bash. You know, Bone Bash needs to be big. It needs to feel like, oh my God, this is an event. And so there was literally a Thursday of last week, we got an email from our contact at Live Nation, and he was like, oh crap, this email got stuck in my outbox. We need you to go on the air Monday with a giveaway for this show, Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper. And I was like, wait, what? Where was the pitch for this to be Bone Bash?
Right.
You know, I'm like, I've been begging for like a true rock, really upped the ante kind of gig. His email, as soon as we pushed back, I was like, oh, whoa, hold on. Could this be Bone Bash? Could we talk about that? And he's like, Eureka, stand by. So then all the things start happening. They start calling Alice Cooper's people and Rob Zombie's people. We get approval, which is a big thing. And then we're like, we still have to go live with this on Monday. This is Thursday afternoon. Usually we have a couple months to get assets together because you have to think about what we have to do. We have to create a website page or a page on our website. We have to create graphics. We have to do promos. Our jocks need to be on board. We need to be promoting. There's so many things. Set up the pre-sale. I mean, it's insane. And they're like, okay, well, if you can make it happen by Monday at 7 a.m., good luck. Let's do it. And so thank friggin' God, I have the most amazing team because I looked at Andrea and Mari and Baby Huey and Nikki Lamontanelli and I was like, we're doing it. And everybody was like, let's go. And it's a lot of work on them, but no one even blinked an eye. Nice, and I was like, this is why I love you people. This is why I buy you extra Starbucks and things at Christmas. So we made it happen. Nice. I mean, everybody worked all weekend and we made it happen and we announced it at 7 a.m. on Monday that Bone Bash is Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie. It's a co-headlining tour. Never done anything like that. And then Ministry is on the bill. And then at the last second, we found out Filter was on the bill, which we didn't even know when we chose the show. I freaked out. I was actually on the phone with you when I figured this out, or I called you right after. I was like, oh my God. Freaking, hey man, nice shot.
Oh, yeah.
So exactly. And I think it was written in the stars because it's the same day as last year. September 22nd. It's a Friday this year, but at Concord Pavilion. So it was meant to be.
Awesome.
Oh, that's going to be a good party.
Oh my God. Right?
Holy shit.
Welcome to my nightmare. I'm so excited. So I think it's actually going to go. A lot of people have been asking, as it stands right now, unless anything changes, it'll be Filter, Ministry, Alice will be in the middle, and then Rob. So, just for planning purposes. But yeah, it's going to be killer.
Nice.
Can't wait.
Nice.
Buy your tickets. They're on sale on livenation.com. Good deals on Bone Bash. That's why you always have to listen to the Bone because we did the pre-sale for Boneheads, but that only lasts 2 days. So when those sell out, they sell out. So and then you got to scoop them up. So
you'll be doing giveaways too, I'm assuming.
Oh
right?
yeah. We did a bunch of giveaways this week. We will, if you're listening to this in real time, we will be doing giveaways this week as well. So I should have said last week and this week. I'm time jumping now. Yeah, and we do several giveaways before it actually gets here in September.
But this is a big one, so you're definitely going to want to buy your ticket.
Oh, you gotta.
If you're lucky to win tickets, that's great.
Yeah.
Then you can bring a couple of friends with you or something.
Exactly.
But just buy your tickets, man, because this is going to be one to see.
Yeah, I mean, I was realizing I've never even seen Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie.
Yeah, me
neither.
You
have
haven't either? Yeah. So this is, and they're two artists the Bones never worked with. It was definitely a risk. I mean, it was like, all right, we can do something we've done before, like Styx or REO or Foreigner. And I love those bands, but we've done a lot of those shows.
Sure.
So it was like, all right, let's take a chance here. Let's go a little hard for Bone Bash and see what happens. Overwhelmingly, people have been stoked.
I interviewed Rob Zombie about 10 years ago.
No way.
For a film that he did. He made a horror movie.
Sure.
And one of the coolest, most interesting interviews. It was long. I mean, like we just shot the shit.
Yeah.
And I still remember things that he said, like they still creep up when I'm looking at writing or editing or whatever. Just the relationship between the artist and the audience. There's because he had a very measuredly paced film. It was not in a hurry to get to where it was going. And I asked him about that. And he says, sometimes you just got to take the audience by the hand and you got to change their temperature and you got to walk them through the process and give them what you want to give them when you want to give it to them. And I was like, ooh, that's good.
I love that.
That's good. That's a creator kind of like, no, it's not what you expected. Let's take you on this journey. Take my hand.
Yeah. And he is a true artist in that way with his films and his music. He really takes risk. He's not afraid to be exactly who he is. He doesn't do any formulaic anything, much like Alice Cooper, who came before him. So yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me to hear. I'd love to hear that interview, by the way.
I'll find it for you.
Okay,
I'll send
cool.
it to you.
Yeah.
And he's also...
We can actually post that to promote Bone Bash.
He's also got his hands in all the creative minutia behind the scenes stuff because I used to work for Universal Studios in the entertainment department, and I was the director of a Halloween Horror Nights maze that was based on House of a Thousand Corpses.
Sick.
Nice.
And he came out and we actually did a walkthrough with all the performers going and stuff. So he came in and he was making notes. Let's do this. Let's change this here. And so,
love that.
yeah. So, I mean, but it wasn't just a matter of him signing his name
Yeah,
the thing and going,
yeah.
just go ahead and do that thing. You know,
He really was hands-on.
He was right there, right in the middle of it to make sure that it was what he wanted it to be.
Well, and he is such a specific eye and brand that it has to be, or it's not authentic to Rob Zombie.
Yep.
And he wouldn't be who he is without that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So naturally, you can hear these cats on 107.7 The Bone. Chasta's on every single goddamn day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dennis just snort. Dennis is on Saturday nights at 11 o'clock. Soundwaves FM.
Yep.
That's all the great music in the Bay Area. You definitely want to check that out.
Oh my God.
And I think I heard Steve, you were talking about, like, I heard a segment on the Lamont and Sinelli show that I thought Steve was in, but I was wrong about that. But you heard him a couple of times.
I did. I heard him a couple times over the last 10 days. I was he's sitting there when we were play our bits, because on the Lamont and Sinelli show, they're really do super goofy bits. And it's kind of like a drinking game. Like all of a sudden I'll hear a voice and I'm like, that's Steven. Like it'll kick out and then we'll laugh about it because we'll all make eye contact and I'll be like, that's Steven. And then we get off and talk about it. But you're so talented. Because Lamont pieces stuff together, but he also has Smelly, our producer.
Right.
And he pieces stuff together. It's a huge undertaking, that show, in a production manner. So sometimes Lamont will not know who Smelly has even used until we get it. And I'm like, that one's Steven. And he's like, no, it's really cool. So I just love it. It's a drinking game now. Do we drink at 6 a.m.? Maybe.
Are we still awake drinking at 6 a.m.?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes.
Don't judge.
Right. And if you're planning ahead a couple of months, we got a fun show. We've got so much big Soundwave stuff coming down the pike. This is our 40th anniversary. We're getting ready for some major announcements. But I'll share one with you. We haven't told
Why don't you share it? Because you booked it.
Kind of.
Are you Booker now? Booker Dennis?
I guess so. You get paid for that, though, right?
Oh, right. Oh, instead of Booker T, we're going to call you Booker D.
I'm okay with
Nice.
that.
Right? I like that.
I like that. That's
yeah, you
cool.
should be getting paid, so make that happen.
This is our home away from home, the longboard. It's March 24th. I know it's a little far out, but scribble it on your calendar. It's State Line Empire. They have a maybe an EP release. We're waiting to find out about that.
They say it's an EP release.
Let's go with that.
Fingers crossed. I'm excited.
It's going to be an EP release. And Quart of Blood Technique and one of my favorite new bands in the Bay Area, Corvus Lore.
Getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Just
It's
saw
gonna
them last weekend at Bottom of the Hill.
That's right.
Fantastic. With
That's right.
Devil in California and Rusty Chains.
So it's going to be a hell of a show. The Soundwaves gang is going to be over partying. We're going to have the big monitor, and you come buy us a drink, and we'll tell you a story.
I love that.
Thank you for listening to Soundwaves TMI, featuring Chasta, Stephen Kirk, and yours truly, Dennis Willis. The part of the announcer was played by Kelly Ogden. Please like and subscribe to Soundwaves TMI wherever you are listening from. Soundwaves TMI is presented in part by the Longboard Bar in Pacifica, California, a world-class music venue and neighborhood bar, all under one roof. Also, please consider helping us continue our mission of lifting and supporting independent music and the Bay Area music scene by becoming a Soundwaves patron. In exchange, you'll be the first to see and hear weekly shows such as Soundwaves TV, Soundwaves FM, and the Soundwaves TMI podcast, as well as exclusive content. Just go to patreon.com/SoundwavesTV. For all things Soundwaves, follow us on social media at Soundwaves TV or just go to soundwavestv.com.